A Shelby GT350H in red? Why not? It's Muscle Car of the Week. There are always a lot of stories to tell about Shelby cars, mostly because the cars themselves are very unique, and this time we're looking at a 1966 Shelby GT350H in a very rare color. So before we get into all the details of the car, I think it's interesting to take a look at what makes the 66 GT350 an unusual car on its own. Now, the Shelby GT350 model started in '65, and the whole program was intended for Ford to have a competitive race car in SCCA racing, so they enlisted the help of Carroll Shelby to engineer the Mustang into a track-capable race car. And SCCA at that point was competing against things like the Corvette, and Ford didn't think it would be feasible to take a showroom stock Mustang and put it on a track against a Corvette and expect to win any races. So the Shelby crew stepped in to make some really smart modifications to turn the lowly Mustang into a very capable performer on the track. Everywhere you looked, they made the car lighter and more aggressive to be a track performer. And they made just over 550 of these cars in 1965. And one thing they noticed is that the conversion process to turn a regular Mustang into a GT350, although very effective, was also very labor intensive. But for 1966, Ford and Shelby wanted these cars to be a little bit easier to make, thereby hopefully making more of them and making them a little more cost effective and improving the whole program from top to bottom. So what they ended up doing was making a few revisions to the car. For example, they no longer had the lowered suspension that you saw in the '65 car. They redesigned the rear suspension traction bars so that it didn't require so much modification to the axle housing and to the body of the car, so that installed quicker. From a visual standpoint, they now had a clear plexiglass rear quarter window in the back, which was probably the main styling difference between '65 and '66. They had a different grille in front, which had polished horizontal ribs, and of course the other Shelby markings, including the stripes on the rocker panels, which were now stickers instead of being painted, so they were a little faster to apply. This car also has the gold Le Mans stripes that go up over the hood and on the roof and back down the deck lid. But the car retained that K-Code style 289 cubic inch V8 with the Shelby spec aluminum intake manifold and carburetor and exhaust. So that was basically a carryover from '65. So the car still had the kind of performance that people were used to. Now, when the Hertz people got involved, they recognized that a GT350 would make a nice addition to their sports car club and be an attractive rental car. So they ordered a couple of prototypes to test, and they liked them, so they turned around and ordered 1,000 more cars, which meant the Shelby crew really had to step it up into high gear to start kicking out these special cars for Hertz. The GT350H program was a neat way for a potential customer to try out a Shelby before buying one. The bet was that they would go to their Hertz dealer, rent one of these, fall in love with it, and then run out to the Ford dealer to bring one home. And the majority of them were done in black with gold stripes, which was the standard Hertz logo colors. But for '66, the Shelby lineup was expanded to offer several other colors. You could get a blue, you could get the traditional Wimbledon white, you could also get green and the candy apple red. Of those 1,000 Hertz cars, there's supposed to be 50 or so that were done in the candy apple red, and this is one of them. So it's a very unique car and a very unique color scheme. Hertz complained that these cars were getting pretty expensive to maintain, probably because of the way people treated them. I mean, none of us are really nice to rental cars, but imagine what happened to a race car. In fact, they didn't rent Shelby Mustangs again for another 40 years. And there's kind of an interesting side story about those two initial prototype cars. You see, Hertz had counted those against the 1,000 cars that they ordered from Shelby. So you had your initial two, and technically they wanted 998 more. Well, when Shelby delivered the extra 1,000, Hertz denied 2 of them. They said, we already have the 2, we need the 998, that fulfills our order. So the 2 remaining cars got filtered back through dealers and were sold to the public. One of them is unaccounted for. The other one, well, it lives in the brothers' collection. The Hertz cars also got a couple other modifications to make them more friendly to drive, because the regular GT350 was kind of a handful on the street, especially in the braking department. Regular consumers weren't necessarily ready for the brake compound, which didn't stop very well until they were heated up. They were designed to be used on tracks. So when you went to your local Hertz rental car dealer and picked up the keys to a GT350H, a lot of people weren't used to the stopping. They thought they had bad brakes, and they weren't ready to heat them up because they just weren't used to that. So part of the Hertz program added power brake boosters and changed the brake pad compound to make these things a little bit easier to stop. Another thing they did is ditch the Holley 710 CFM carburetor in favor of the regular Mustang Autolite carburetor, which was about 300 CFM less. And the reason for this is it provided a little more daily driver friendliness, it was a little bit less temperamental, and it provided a little bit better fuel economy so people could enjoy their Shelby rental car a little bit better. And after all, they were spending $17 a day and an additional 17 cents a mile to use this thing, so you wanted to make sure they had a happy experience. The Shelby GT350H cars also had radios in them, whereas that was an option with the regular GT350s, because Shelby believed that you're going to go racing, you're not going to be listening to music. But the Hertz people knew that some of these creature comforts helped them rent cars. 1966 also showed a couple of optional wheels for the GT350. These things were initially made with a stamped steel wheel, but for 66 you could get a gray painted Magnum 500 style wheel, a chrome Magnum 500 wheel, or the cast alloy 10-spoke Shelby wheels like we see on this car. And we think they really make this car look great. It's kind of funny to think that Hertz said they couldn't give these cars away after they retired them from the rental fleet. But if you think about it, who would have wanted to buy a used rental race car? I think today it's a little bit easier to sell one, especially the ultra rare red one like this. And if you think this car's neat, there's an even rarer one in the brothers' collection. We have a video of it. It's the car that was never rented. Check it out on our website at MuscleCarOfTheWeek.com. And if you got comments about all this stuff, you can leave them on our Facebook page. And don't forget to subscribe to the YouTube channel so you don't miss an episode of Muscle Car of the Week.